It's 11:47 at night and Kevin is doing the thing he does every month. The last day, the blue glow of his phone lighting up his face in a dark kitchen. He's scrolling his bank app, watching a number he doesn't remember agreeing to. A coffee subscription he forgot he had. A streaming service he canceled, except he only meant to. $12 here. A buy now, pay later installment there, one of four, and he can't recall what he even bought. And when he gets to the bottom of the scroll, Kevin does what he always does. He puts the phone face down on the table. He exhales. And he says the sentence quietly to nobody, to the empty room, the one he said for 10 years. I'm just bad with money. He believes it the way you believe your own name. A grown man, alone at his kitchen table, apologizing to a banking app. And I want you to hold there on that quiet, private shame, because it's a lie. It was the first thing they sold him. My name is Nick. And here's the whole video in one sentence. The problem was never your willpower. It's the room you can't see. You think you're sitting at a kitchen table making bad choices. You're actually standing inside a building that someone drew on purpose, room by room, and you got mad at yourself for not finding the clocks on the wall. There aren't any clocks. That's not an accident. Somebody decided that, because there are real rooms, real conference rooms, full of real, well-paid people, whose entire job this quarter is your next tap. This is a whole documented field now. They even have a friendly name for it: choice architecture. Teams whose stated craft is nudging you. Entire teams run experiments on millions of people at once, testing which button, which color, which word gets you to not stop and think. And here's the part nobody tells you. There is nobody on your side of that table. Nobody was hired to protect your Tuesday night self from that room. And no, don't reach for it's just the economy like it's weather. Weather isn't designed. Nobody drew up the rain. This has architects. They signed the drawings. They're proud of the drawings. So here's my promise, and then we go inside. Don't click away, because the rooms only get more expensive from here. And the last one, the one at the very top, is where they keep the exit. By the end of this, Kevin's going to learn something that took me years to believe. He's allowed to move the furniture. He always was. He just never saw the room he was standing in. Let me show him the front door. Everything else in this building depends on what happens at that front door, so start there. Kevin's grandmother used to keep her money in envelopes. You've maybe seen this. One envelope for groceries, one for gas, one for church. And when the grocery envelope was empty, groceries were done for the week, not because she was some monk of discipline, not because she had more self-control than Kevin, but because she could see the money leave. She held it, counted it, felt the stack get thinner in her hand. Handing over cash used to physically sting. Your brain, it turns out, logs that sting the same way it logs a small hurt. Brain imaging suggests it lights up regions tied to loss. Economists have a name for it: the pain of paying. And that little wince, that flinch, was a break. It was the only break most people ever had. Now here's the thing nobody tells you. That break didn't wear out. It didn't disappear on its own. It was removed. Purpose. One careful step at a time. Watch the staircase down. Cash, you watch it leave your hand, full price, full sting. Then the card, a small delay, a swipe, a signature, the number's abstract now, the pain gets a little fuzzy. Then tap, no swipe, no signature, just a chirp, done in half a second. Your money makes a happy little sound as it goes. Then the saved card, so you don't even reach for your wallet. Then one click, where you're not deciding anything at all. You're just cashing in a decision you made months ago and forgot about. And at the very bottom of the stairs, buy now, pay later. Split it into four. 4 payments so small that not one of them is big enough to make you flinch. They didn't reduce the price. They chopped up the pain until every piece fell below the level where you'd notice it. And this isn't a hunch. One off-cited study out of MIT years back found that people were willing to pay up to roughly double for the same thing when they used a card instead of cash. Same item, same person. The only thing that changed was how much it hurt to hand the money over. Tap and one click only pushed that further. And the buy now, pay later numbers surged in the last few years, and surveys suggest a real share of the people using it end up spending more than they meant to, or lose track of what they owe entirely. Here's the way to feel it. Cash was paying with a nerve exposed. Every step since has been a slow dose of anesthetic. By the time you're tapping your phone, they have numbed the tooth completely, numbed it so they can keep drilling and you won't pull away, and then, and I love this part, they have the nerve to call it frictionless. Like the friction was the flaw. The friction was your break. So when Kevin taps his phone for a $14 lunch, he feels nothing. And by dinner, he genuinely can't remember buying it. The transaction left no fingerprint. And here's what I need you to sit with, that nothing he felt. That is not a glitch. That is the product. That is the thing they shipped. Teams of engineers spent years making that moment feel exactly like nothing at all. He got through the front door without a scratch. Which is the problem, because now he's inside. And inside, every single hallway has already answered for him. Here's the word for it. The default. The answer that's already chosen for you if you do nothing. And I want you to sit with how much of your life is decided by that word, because doing nothing is what a tired human does almost every single time. That's not weakness. That's just Tuesday. We are busy, we are stretched, we are running on fumes by 6 p.m., so when a box is already checked, we leave it checked. When a plan is already selected, we take it. Inertia isn't a flaw in the customer. Inertia is what they're actually selling. They are handing you the path of least resistance and then charging you for walking down it. You want proof of how strong this is. Look at organ donation. Nothing on earth is a bigger, more personal decision than what happens to your body after you die. And the famous comparison found something almost unbelievable. In opt-in countries, where you have to check a box to become a donor, registration often sits low, well under a quarter of people. Flip the default to opt-out, where you're a donor unless you say otherwise, and it can run into the high 90s. Same humans, same kindness, same love for their families. The only thing that changed was which way the box was already ticked. If a default can move something that's sacred, imagine what it does to a $12 subscription you forgot exists. Now watch them use it against you. The pre-checked box, auto-renew you never re-agreed to, will just keep your card on file. The plan they've already marked recommended, glowing, pre-selected. And when you finally want out, the cancel button is buried 3 menus deep behind a survey and a phone call. Signing up took 1 tap. Leaving takes an afternoon. That asymmetry is not laziness. Someone drew that. But here's the twist that changes everything. The default is a two-edged blade. Point it the other way and it saves you. Take the 401k. When companies make you opt in, participation often sits well under half, down around 40% for new hires. Flip it to automatic, you're enrolled unless you say no, and studies of auto-enrollment found participation more than doubling up into the high 80s, the 90s. Same workers, same paychecks, same discipline. They just changed the door. That's the whole secret, sitting right there in plain sight. The lever works ferociously. The only question is who's holding it, which brings me to Priya. Same age as Kevin, same city, roughly the same salary. And Priya saves money without thinking about it, without sweating it, without one single moment of the shame Kevin feels every month. Kevin assumes she's just better than him, more disciplined, more grown-up. She isn't. Her very first job auto-enrolled her in the retirement plan on day 1. The money moved before she ever saw it. Kevin's old job handed him a form he meant to fill out, fully intended to fill out, and never got around to because he was tired and it was Tuesday. That's the entire difference between them. Not character, a form. A default is a river. You can absolutely swim upstream, but notice who gets to decide which way the river runs, and notice they always point it at their own pocket. And that night, half understanding, Kevin scrolls his subscriptions and finds 3 auto-renews he would swear on his life he never signed up for. Money leaving on a timer he never set. He turns to Priya and asks her secret, and she just shrugs because there was never a trick. Look at what that actually means. You're not choosing, you're accepting. And accepting, they figured out a long time ago, is the easiest thing in the world to sell you. And if accepting the box that's already ticked is that easy to sell, wait until you see what happens when they get to pick the numbers on the tag. Because the next room is the one where Kevin feels smartest, and he's never been more thoroughly handled. Walk into any store, any app, any checkout, and watch what the first number does to you. Researchers have shown for decades, this goes back to Tversky and Kahneman, the founding fathers of this whole field, that the first number you see becomes gravity. Every number after it bends toward that first one, whether it makes any sense or not. It's called anchoring. Show someone a price of 200, cross it out, and offer 120, and their brain doesn't ask, is 120 a fair price for this thing? It asks, how much am I saving off 200? Different question, wrong question. The exact question they wanted you asking. And the thing about that crossed out 200, it may never have been real. That original price is a stunt double. It exists for one reason, to take the hit so the real price can walk away looking like a hero. You think you're comparing the sale price to what the thing is worth. You're not. You're comparing it to a scarecrow they built specifically to lose. The sale doesn't exist to give you a deal. The sale exists so the anchor can exist. Then there's the decoy, and this one is so elegant it deserves a slow clap. In one well-known experiment, people were shown magazine subscriptions, a cheap web-only option, a print-only option, and a print-and web bundle. When the pointless print-only option sat there in the middle, priced right up against the bundle so the bundle looked like a steal, most people jumped to the expensive bundle. Take that useless middle option away and their choice flipped. The middle tier was never meant to be bought. It's set decoration. It exists so the expensive thing standing next to it looks reasonable. And Kevin's standing right in front of it, chin in his hand, feeling like a careful shopper weighing his options, when the options were arranged in order before he ever walked up. And on the small scale, it's the upsell. Large for just $1 more. $5 or $9 for the big one. They're not asking you to spend more. They're quietly resetting your reference point so that spending up feels like getting a bargain, so you feel clever choosing exactly what they wanted you to choose all along. Here's the whole trick in one line. They are not selling you a price. They're selling you a comparison. The number on the tag barely matters. What matters is the number they parked right next to it. And Kevin walks out of that room glowing. He pulls out his phone and texts a buddy a photo of his haul, saved $80. 80 whole dollars, on a bundle that 1 hour earlier didn't exist in his life. He didn't need it that morning. He wasn't looking for it, but the feeling of the deal, that little hit of I outsmarted them, that feeling was the whole point of the room. He didn't buy the thing. He bought the win. And the win was on the house. But there's one room in this building Kevin keeps walking back into, and he can never quite find the way out. That's not bad decor. That's the floor plan. Here's the trick that keeps him there, and it has a name. Psychologists call it the endowment effect, and it's one of the strangest, most reliable things about the human brain. The second something feels like yours, the second you've touched it, held it, logged into it, giving it up stops feeling like a neutral choice and starts feeling like a loss. And your brain hates a loss. In a famous set of experiments, researchers handed people a plain coffee mug, and within minutes those people demanded roughly twice as much to give the mug up as a different group was willing to pay to buy the very same mug. Nothing changed but the word mine. Same mug, double the grip. Now look at what a free trial actually is. It's not a gift. It's a machine built to trigger that grip before you've even decided you want the thing. 30 days free, and by day 29 it's your playlist, your saved shows, your workflow, your login. Canceling doesn't feel like declining an offer anymore. It feels like taking something away from yourself. They didn't give you a trial, they loaned you an ache. And cancel anytime, say it slower. That is not a courtesy. That is a wager. They are betting with real money on your future willpower, and they have read the data on how that bet goes. Signing up is one tap, glowing, centered, impossible to miss. Canceling is a maze, a menu inside a menu, a please don't go, a discount that appears the second you reach for the exit, a button the exact gray of the wall behind it. One door is a slide. The other is a hallway they keep making longer. So the rooms pile up. Surveys keep finding the same thing. People asked to guess their own monthly subscription total, lowball it by a wide margin, and forget several entirely. Kevin does the math one night and finds an app he has paid around $14 a month for 2 years, opened exactly once. $14 a month, quietly, into a room he never walks into. Not because he's careless, because the room was designed to be forgotten, and remembering it was never his job, it was theirs. And they made sure it paid to stay quiet. But here's where it stops being about products and starts being about him personally. Because the building doesn't just build the rooms, it picks the moment. Look at when the offers actually arrive. The one-tap deal, the just for you tonight. The ad that knows they cluster after dark near payday when the balance is highest and the guard is lowest. Kevin's own phone lights up at 11:41, 6 minutes before the scroll, a push notification. Your cart misses you. Little countdown timer ticking under it in red, and it lands in the exact soft spot between tired and awake. The feed itself is a slot machine, pull, maybe nothing, pull, maybe something on a random schedule, the exact mechanism a psychologist named Skinner found could hook a pigeon for hours. So by the time "By Now" slides across the screen, you're already in the machine's rhythm. You were warmed up. That was the point. And this is the part I need you to hear, Kevin. Willpower isn't a character trait you were born short on. It's a phone battery. It drains all day, every decision, every no, every bill, and by night it's at 2%. And they scheduled the ad for 2%. They don't fight your willpower. They wait for it to fall asleep, then they rob the house. That 11:47 scroll, thumb moving on its own in the dark, that wasn't a flaw in you. It was an appointment. They booked it with the weakest version of you on purpose, because they knew you'd never overspend at 9 in the morning full of coffee. The building knew that about you before you did. Kevin starts to say it, "I'm so stupid," and stops, because for the first time he can see the maze he's standing in. And you don't call a rat stupid for being in a maze someone else built. So before I hand Kevin the keys, I have to be honest with you, because if I'm not, I'm just another voice in the building telling you what you want to hear. None of this is illegal. Nobody held a gun to Kevin's head and made him tap. And here's the part that's harder to sit with. A lot of this architecture genuinely helps. The auto-enrolled retirement account that quietly made Priya richer while she slept. Same lever. One-tap checkout for the thing you actually planned to buy, the flight you booked on purpose, the groceries you needed. Real convenience, not a trap. The saved card that lets you pay the babysitter without hunting for your wallet. That's not the enemy. The tool isn't evil. A lock-picking kit isn't evil either. It just matters enormously whether it's in the hands of the guy who installs your locks or the guy who's emptying your house. And in this building mostly, it's the second guy. Even Priya will tell you the same lever that saved her retirement is the one draining Kevin's checking account. One tool, two directions. And I have to give you the margins too, because pretending they don't exist steals something from you. Responsibility still lives at the edges. Two people can stand in the exact same machine and walk out in different directions. Some people do find the exits. That's real and it's yours, and I'm not going to take it from you. But here's the distinction that keeps this from becoming a permission slip. The default outcome. The one that happens when you do nothing, when you're tired. When it's 11:47, that outcome is engineered against you. Escaping is possible. It's just swimming upstream. And blame the swimmer is the entire con. That's the trick. They design a current, point it at your wallet, and then act shocked that you got wet. So hear the real line, the one I actually came here to say. You didn't lose because you're weak. You lost a game you didn't know you'd sat down to. You can walk out of a casino up money, it happens, but we don't call the people who lost bad at gambling. We call the game what it is. This isn't "it's not your fault, so give up." It was never your shame. Now here's what actually moves the needle. And look, I make these because I got tired of watching people I love call themselves bad with money. If that's you, there's a free redesign your defaults checklist below, a map of the floor. No pressure, the point stands either way. And I'm a guy with the blueprints, not your financial advisor. This isn't financial advice. I can't see your specific building, so take this as a map, not a mandate. Then Priya says the quiet thing. Kevin finally asks her straight out what her secret is, and she just shrugs. I never set any of it up. It came preset the right way. I just never touched it. And for the first time in 10 years, Kevin feels that month-end sentence loosen its grip. Maybe it wasn't me. Maybe it was never me. So Kevin stops trying to outmuscle the architecture and does the one thing that actually works. He changes the doors. He does to himself exactly what they did to him, pre-checks the boxes, sets the defaults, rigs inertia, except this time every door is pointed at his own pocket instead of theirs. You don't beat a river with muscle. You dig one new channel once and then the water does the work for you forever. Willpower is swimming. A good default is redirecting the river so that when you do nothing, you win by default. So he starts with the one move that matters most. He automates the good. The day his paycheck lands. Before week Kevin at 11:47 ever gets a vote, a slice slides straight into savings on a timer. The money's gone before he wakes up to want it. He sets it up once, on a Sunday afternoon, in about 4 minutes, and then never touches it again. Pay yourself first, they call it, and research on automation consistently finds that people who move money before it hits their checking account save more than the ones who swear they'll transfer whatever's left, because whatever's left is always nothing. The building taught him that. So he stops relying on the leftovers and takes his cut off the top, automatically, the way a smart landlord takes rent, first quietly and without asking twice. Then he reinstalls the friction they spent years sanding off. He opens his phone and deletes every saved card one by one, so tap becomes typing 16 digits again. He puts the wince back on purpose. And it works that very night. At 11:50, cart full, thumb hovering, he hits buy and the screen asks for his card number, all 16 digits, the expiry, the little code on the back, and somewhere around digit 9. Standing in his kitchen hunting for his wallet, Kevin just stops, closes the app. The friction did in 8 seconds what a decade of promising himself never could. The card is still there in the morning. He doesn't want it in the morning. Then he goes hunting for the ghosts. He sits down with his bank statement, the same scroll that used to end in shame, and this time he treats it like a map instead of a verdict. There's the app he paid $14 a month to ignore. Gone. There's the streaming service he canceled a year ago and never did. Gone. The auto-renew he'd swear he never signed. Gone. He logs out of the accounts that make buying too easy. He hits unsubscribe on the emails that arrive right at payday. And he opts out of every pre-checked box he can find, flipping them back one at a time, the way you'd walk a house turning off lights someone else left on. And then he makes one rule, a single line of code for his own head. Anything he wants after dark waits 24 hours. The thing goes in the cart and the cart just sits there overnight. If he still wants it tomorrow at 9 in the morning, full of coffee, strong Kevin, fine, he buys it. But most mornings the want is just gone, evaporated like it was never really his to begin with. Because it wasn't. It was the room's. The cart survives the night. The impulse doesn't. And here's the quiet part, Kevin isn't becoming more disciplined. He didn't grow a spine over the weekend. He became better defaulted. Willpower left the building entirely and the money still got saved. That's the whole Priya trick, finally reverse-engineered. She never had more willpower than him. She had better settings, flipped the right way once on day 1 and then forgotten. Same lever that keeps organ donor rates in the high 90s in one country and near the floor in another, pointed this time at Kevin. A year later, from the outside, he looks identical. Same job, same apartment, same $14 lunches, same phone in the same hand. But the number at month end moves the other way now quietly, and the 1147 scroll is just gone. He's the one at the kitchen table now, telling a friend, "You're not bad with money here. Let me show you the building." And then it's the 31st again. Same table, same reflex. He picks up the phone, scrolls the number, and this time he puts it face down, exhales, and says nothing at all, because there's nothing to forgive. You were never fighting your own weakness. You were fighting the floor plan. So the real question was never, how do I get more willpower? It was always quieter than that. Who's been setting your defaults, and what happens the day you finally set them yourself? The blueprints were always there. Now you can see them. Go move the furniture.